Twinkle, twinkle, little star,
He's alive!
Welcome to where the weird ones are.
Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out.
Powerful figures in Hollywood as well as powerful politicians who are in fact not human. They're reptiles or they're lizards or perhaps extraterrestrials.
I don't think it is a human. I think it's a Sasquatch.
Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.
Let's get weird.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Heidi Luv, who has spent the majority of her life as a Mormon and is now converted to Christianity. So she has some interesting stuff to tell about the Mormon religion, some of the rituals and stuff. Some of the things seem like they've been taken from Freemasonry. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting. I think history and whatnot, things that we possibly could have been lied to about and all this stuff. Yeah, so buckle up because she can talk and she does talk and she's a good talker at that. But if you are in the realm of looking for a new podcast, you should check out her podcast. It's Unfiltered Rise. It's a good one. I've started listening to it as well. What else do I don't know. She's gonna come back she's gonna make more appearances on the show. Lovely person. I think she is well deserving of some love. So if you're listening to this and you do decide that you are in the mood to find or try out another podcast, please check hers out. It's I like it. I listen to it. So I mean, put whatever stake you want in my word, all you want. But anyway, so 40 Fest. If you are looking to vend an event, there is an event on June 8th at the Memorial Gym. It is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. right here in Sanford, Maine on June 8th. I probably already said that, but you go to Facebook and look up 40 Fest and you can get the tickets through there. Or you can contact Paranormal 5 on either Facebook or Instagram. They'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction so that you can vend. If you're in the immediate area, if you feel like traveling to vend, then I mean, be my guest. But if any of the listeners are in the immediate area of Sanford, Maine, we will gladly have you. So it's going to be a pretty good event. The gym is huge. Good spot for speakers. There's going to be food trucks outside, and it's going to be a phenomenal time. Phenomenal time. Also, I will be vending there. So, another thing, on April 13th, I will be at Encounter Quest, also vending, and that is in Hamlet, North Carolina. That is 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., I believe. So yeah. So if anybody that's that's listening is in the area of Hamlet, North Carolina, and you want to come, not only come check out the convention, but, come hang out, would love to meet you. It's a good way to network and whatnot. So, I did change up. Etsy, for some reason, decided to suspend my account. I have no idea. Something about payments, which I've been paying them, so it makes no fucking sense. They won't answer me through the emails. They actually told me that they can no longer discuss the matter with me, which is really fucking stupid. But I found something way better anyway, and it's Printify pop-up. So I use Printify anyway. But there is a local place here that does t-shirts and stuff that I'm thinking about going through, but I don't know. I don't know yet. Have to go talk to him first of all. But yeah, so it's so I use Printify for the t-shirts and shit. And then I go to then I plugged it into Etsy so that consumers can buy the merch and whatnot. But so there's a Printify pop-up store which which is like the same thing as Etsy, except Printify doesn't charge me to use that. I'm already paying a premium for Printify in itself. So I'm really glad that Etsy decided to suspend my account, and I was able to find that. So, because I was paying Etsy, a percentage for sales. Not that I was making a shit ton of sales or anything, but I think the designs are pretty dope. But anyways, so yeah, that is that. If you like the show, if you want to help me out and help me grow, one of the best ways is to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Another way is leaving a rating and review on whether it's Spotify or Apple. You can comment on YouTube, comment on Rumble, which actually I keep forgetting to post the videos on Rumble. So I think I'm like really far behind on putting the videos on Rumble. So maybe this will put the fire in my ass to do that. Maybe I'll do that this weekend, start plugging them in. What else? I don't think I got nothing. I ain't got nothing. I ain't got shit. Well, so podcast shout outs, Unfiltered Rise, obviously. Cryptid Warfare podcast. If you're not listening to my buddies, Drewski and Z Baby, then there's something fucking wrong with you. I think they're pretty great. Check out Beyond the Shadows as well. Their podcast is local. They're local. The hosts of that show are local to me, but so hopefully collab soon. But it's a good podcast. It's pretty funny. Total Conundrum's another one, but there'll be trailers of something. I don't know. Some podcasts that maybe might tickle your fancy in today's episode. But anyways, so if you want to be featured on the show, you want to tell your crazy and wild stories, you want to talk about conspiracies, you got something you've researched that you really want to talk about and you want to get out, you're an author, want to talk about and promote your books and whatnot, definitely hit me up because I want to talk to you. I love talking about this weird shit. Well, it's considered weird. I mean, you know what I mean. But hit me up at where the weird ones are at gmail.com and we can set something up. So yeah, currently booking into February and March, so hurry up. But anyways, I hope you guys have a good day, good night, whatever time you have chosen to listen to this episode. If you're into the conspiracies, I know this one's not really like paranormal. So this this is just weird shit. So I really enjoyed the conversation again. If you want to, you can follow Heidi on Instagram, Unfiltered Rise. So Heidi, or you could just look up Heidi Luv. That's a Luv, not Love, Respect. Well, yeah. So question everything. Let's stay fucking weird. Let's get into this bullshit. It's not bullshit. I chose the wrong words. Let's get into this lovely conversation with Heidi Luv.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Let's get weird. Weird. Get weird.
Hey, it's Heidi.
Yes.
That's your intro. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, this is Heidi Luv. That's my real name. My parents are straight hippies.
Is it
bro.
really?
Yeah, no, for real.
No way. That's crazy.
I know a lot of people are like shortening it. I'm like, no, like that's the name.
Is it spelled like that? Luv
Yeah.
too?
Yeah. My
No
dad was
shit.
a raging hippie. My mom's like, don't put that out there. People will find you. I'm like, they're gonna find me if they're the people that are scary enough to find me are gonna find me if they want to find me. Right?
Yeah,
Like
that's true. That's
they
true.
fucking uploaded my fingerprints into the FBI website. I'm a nurse. Let's get real. Let's get really real. Yeah.
Drew sent me something a couple months ago, and I was trying to do like the I got mail kind of video thing, and I put it right up in the screen, his address and my address, and then posted it on the internet, and then I was just like,
no.
Maybe I shouldn't do that, and I had to take it down. Like already like 50 people had seen it. Or
oh
like
shit,
that,
you're
but...
like, don't come at me, bro. You're like,
yeah, I was like, Drew, I'm so sorry, man. I put your address up there for like 10 minutes.
You should be like, and we expect a Christmas card with money. That's what I would do.
Yes.
Oh
I should have.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
If you don't mind, letting the good people here know a little bit about yourself and your podcast and where they can find you too.
Okay, so we starting up? Should we do her?
Yes.
Are we doing it? Are we already doing it?
We are already doing it. Yes.
We're doing it. Okay. This is Heidi Luv. I am Heidi Luv. That is actually my name. And we were talking about that. I am at the Unfiltered Rise Podcast. I am wherever podcasts are served. And also on Instagram is the best place. If you go on Facebook, I have it, but like, I don't, it's a dead zone. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of weird people with 2 pictures and like no friends on there. So I don't go on there as much. Yeah, they're sketchy. So Instagram me up or unfilteredrise@gmail.com if you have a question for me, which I'm always happy to answer. So my story is a little weird on podcasting. I was a normie, like not that long ago. So
like a zoned out normie, like
maybe not. I was like, do the shots, do the things, do everything they say until 2020. And then I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What's happening? Because this is not normal because I've been a nurse for 24 years. And I was like, this seems like not okay. And so I had an estrangement happen. That was happening. I was really studying stuff, and I was really studying God because I was like, the end of the world is definitely happening. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I was like, okay, We got to read the Revelations again. Holy crap. Like, really, it was scary. And then I was like, okay, settle down, Gina. Like, that's what I say when I'm stupid. So it's not really my other counterpart, just a dumb
Can I
name.
ask you why?
Yeah.
Why?
You're Gino. Wah, wah. And so I'm like, okay, I better settle down because my family's like, wow, you're crazy. I'm like, well, I've just never seen anything happen like this as a nurse, be pushed through like this. So it got me really weird, you know? And then with that estrangement, I had more time because I was just sad. I didn't want time. I was like, help me find no time. And so I got really into Josh Monday. Do you know Josh Monday's show?
I
The
do
Christian
have not.
conspiracy.
Yeah, I haven't listened to him yet, but I
Oh,
did
he's
just
so
start
good.
following him because of Drew and Zook. So
You'll love his work because even though it's a Christian conspiracy podcast, he's fun and he's upbeat and he's like a rapper. And so more are like it's like the speed. He doesn't cuss. I have to watch it with him, but like I try not to cuss also, but I fail a lot. So
I do not try.
Yeah, I try because two things. I'm a Christian podcast, number one, and number two, women just hate it. But I was raised by bikers and truck drivers, so it's ingrained in there. It's in there. It's just part of me. Yeah, and it's an adjective. It's like a person, place, or thing. You can describe so many things with those words, but I do try. So I do fall short every single day. I get it. Girls aren't supposed to talk like that, but I've never really considered myself girly. Like I am a girl, but I'm a man's girl. Like I'm the guy's girl. I'm the girl you hang out with, not date.
You're like a guy's best friend.
Yeah. Yep. And it's always been that way. My best friend all through high school was a guy. I just women, they would come to me, like my friends would come to me for help, and I'm like, I don't know. She sounds like a girl. Like I literally freeze and I'm like, I wish I could tell you because I don't think like a girl. So I don't know. I'm not trans. I'm happy in my body. I like being a girl, but like I just was always like, for example, what was it? No, in 2020, when I was being busy, my husband one day came home from work and I tore out the whole kitchen and I was tiling the kitchen. So Heidi does things like that. And I've torn out floors. He's come home and the carpet was outside on the front lawn. He wasn't amused. He didn't find that funny. I said it smelled weird. I said, we moved in here and I said, that carpet has got to go. They had cats or something weird. And I'm asthmatic and all this stuff. So I said, you got to help me. And he said, his parents are the type of people, they have money, so I don't blame them. But like, if they need a little wall painted, like my little wall right here, like, and it's $1,200, they just pay the $1,200. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, like I just am like, nope, we're Googling that, like, so, but I've always done tile because my uncle taught me when I built my first house. And long story short, I like it. I think it's fun. And also I have OCD, so that's super good for that,
that is actually
because it's even
very good for it.
Yes. So I'm stupid like that, and so I don't think like girls, and I'm just always confused, like as confused, if not more confused than the men folk, because I'm like, you're asking me the things that I don't know. So Josh Monday, I sent him a message. He's one of my favorite podcasters, and I said, Josh, there's something weird going on at this school. Can you go check it out? Blah, blah, blah. Here you go. Here's the message. You know how it says on Spotify, like, if you have a message for me, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to send it to him. And I was like, he's not even going to answer. Like, he's probably some superstar. Because I didn't understand about podcasting, right? Like, we're not superstars. We're like normal people. Yeah. And so I thought that in my mind, and I get this voice memo and I'm like, oh, it's Josh Monday. It's on my phone. I'm like dorkified. I'm like so excited. And my husband's like, are you talking to weird people from the internet? I'm like, no, it's Josh Monday. He's like, again, weird people from what? And so I'm like, okay. And I explained to him. And then, so Josh is like, hey, you should just come on because like, this stuff. and you're a Mormon and you live in Utah and I don't know any of this stuff and you seem to know what you're talking about. And he's like, basically he said, Isaac Wise topped the mural that I sent him, which was true. And then he's like, you just come on and do what you did to me. Like, just do that. And I was like, no way. And he's like, yeah, way. Like, come on. So my first podcast, he talked me into it. I was almost crying. I had notes like the whole time. This was me, like, I'm like, and I'm like reading. And I had my son's puzzle light right here and my phone. And that was it. That was all I had. And so I just was scared. And so after he says, hey, that Mormon thing you brought up, you're like a weird ex-Mormon. Can you come on here? Because that is fascinating. I'm like, that's not fascinating. Like everyone here is a Mormon, like ex-Mormon or Mormon, Yeah. And he goes, no, it's fascinating. And I'm like, why is this fast? Like, I couldn't understand because here it's very normal, that's like normal. And so I was like, I guess, I mean, if you want, like, this is boring. Like, nobody's going to listen to this, Yeah. And he's like, trust me, what I say, they definitely will. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I did it. And then he's like, no, your show did really good. And he's like, can you come back again? So 3 shows in. Yeah. And he goes, Heidi, I could just keep doing this and it's good because your numbers are good and stuff, like, but that's not what it's about for him. He's all about God. And he's like, I just feel like you have a story to tell and maybe you should just tell it, like just go do that. And I'm like, nobody's going to listen to me. I'm a dumb housewife, nurse mom lady that lives in Utah. Like, that loves her dog. Like, what? Why would they listen to me? And he's like, no, that's what it is. That's like what podcasting is, like, And
Absolutely.
so I did it. The first 2, bro, I tried to do it by myself and I might do it again someday for teaching ones. Talking to yourself is brutal. Like,
it really is. I did one by myself so far.
Oh my gosh, it was bad.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, it had to be done.
Yeah. And then going through it, listening to it and being like trying to cut out all the pausing and like the slip ups and stuff like that. That was
or I say
irritating.
things like, I'm gonna say dumb things. And at this point, I don't do it anymore. I don't cut it out. I'm like, if I cuss, if I say things weird too much, whatever. You're listening. You know who I am by now. Change the channel if you don't like it, because it's not probably changing. Like it's just, I'm already this person, And then the cussing, I felt like, okay, I'm unfiltered. That's the whole point, right? Like I'm unfiltered and I rose above my situation. And my situation was pretty bad. Even for a normal person, like not a Mormon, not whatever. Like there's this thing called, so I'm a mental health nurse now. About 7 years ago now, my brother died of an accidental overdose and he was in the military. And so he had gotten out and it was just really sad. And after that, I always swore I'd never do mental health because I was like, growing up, I had enough mental health stuff with other people around me. I never want to do that. And then I was like, but what if, like, my brain was like, what if you could help someone like your brother? Killed me, right? Like, so I was like, okay, maybe, and so now that's what I do. And there's this thing called an ACEs score. It's only 10 questions. You can Google it. And it's to see how much trauma you've had as a child. Like, did your parent go to jail? Did your dad beat your mom? Did you get molested? Did you get beat up? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's like 4 of the 10 right there. I can't remember all of them, but they're basic. I mean, sexual abuse. I don't remember the rest of them, but they're like bullying, maybe. I don't know. And so I have a 10 out of 10. And people that have a 10 out of 10, they don't make it in the real world. Like literally, they're usually hospitalized like for the rest of their life, off and on, or they're on a corner selling crack somewhere. Like really, it's not good, or their bodies or whatever. And I one time told a doctor like just 5 things about my life. And he was like, how are you here and not here, like in here? And I'm like, well, I just I always was really resilient enough to say I can rise above it, hence rise. Okay.
Rise. Yeah.
So I want people to know my whole point of doing this, or I wouldn't do it at all. Because FYI for people, this doesn't make as much money. It's like pennies or something on ads. I mean, it's so silly. It's like very minimal. And we actually pay for a lot of things to run it, and the hours are phenomenal, like in the editing and the interviewing and all the things. So when somebody puts their stuff out there, they must have a reason, and mine was, okay, if I can help anybody like go through what I went through or come out of the Mormon church and be okay, I want to do that because I felt very like God driven to help the people, like, and that's why I'm the type of Christian I am. I'm not a Christian that's at church every Sunday. I don't go to church. I believe in God and the Bible, and that's all. I mean, Jesus Christ is my savior. I know who he is. We talk all the time. I don't go to church.
You don't need a
That's
church
just
to worship anyway.
no. And I feel
mean,
God everywhere. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel God all over. And like he talks to me too, like maybe not in words, but like I know that I'm heard. I know that I'm led. And if I can help anyone get to that point, great. And that's why I do it. And so that's why I kept going, even though I almost quit because I talked to myself and I was like, this is terrible. I was like,
I try.
okay.
That's kind of like the purpose of my show a little bit, like talking about your experiences and your encounters, like to know that somebody else may have had like a similar experience that you are, and that you're not crazy, you're not alone, mental health is really big to me,
Yes.
because I've overcome some trauma too, and I tried to take my own life twice in my life and contemplated a third time. So and then to be here and to meet people like you and the people that I've had to meet through that I've met through this, and to have become like really close with a lot of them, like Drew
It's a
and
family.
Zook.
It's a family.
Yeah,
Unless you really
exactly.
blow it, like we were talking about before, unless you make enemies and there's two ways you go in this business. I found you're either including people and trying to know their story and really actually being genuine, or you're trying to dissect things and you're trying to dig into something that doesn't need to happen that way. Like they're not sharing, they're like almost like FBI grilling you, which is nobody likes that,
Yeah.
And then they're salty about something or they want to rant or whatever. And that's fine. If that, you know what? I don't judge people. If you want to do that, go do it. It's fine. It's fine with me. I don't care. But at the end of the day, you're the one that has to answer for how you behaved.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
so that's my thing. I'm like, you know what? And some people are like, oh, you talk to them and they're gay, blah, blah, blah. They're Christian, but they say this or that. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I super don't care. If the only thing I cared about as a Christian Mormon coming out of Mormonism is I was lied to. I was lied to.
Yep.
I was told something that wasn't true. If the Mormons came out tomorrow and said, we're okay, you got us, we're Freemasons, and this has nothing to do with anything you've learned, and that's all, okay, I would shut up about them, because then they're saying what they are. Fine. You want to be a Freemason, go be a Freemason. You want to be an OTO member, go be an OTO. You want to be a devil worshiper? I've already asked one to come on my show because I have some legitimate questions. Okay. I don't really care. What I care about is being able to conversate with people you don't have to agree with them.
Right.
Right.
Like, exactly.
Grow up.
Exactly.
Like, why do you have to everybody? I don't want to hear myself. Like if I wanted to have a conversation with people that only agree with me, how boring is that?
So
It's
boring.
weird. Yeah, it's so boring.
It's the modern day too, is that like everybody wants to be heard, but they want to be accepted, and that like what they're saying to be accepted by everybody,
Mhm.
but it's not
Or
going
be
to, because
understood. Yeah.
yeah, and it's not going to, because we
Mm-mm.
all experience life differently. We have different perceptions on everything. So
That's
you're
why
gonna
we're
get some
yeah.
people, but there's gonna be people that you're not.
Well, and here's the thing. Who knows what you're planting in their garden? Like maybe like no one could have told me 15 years ago that I wouldn't have been a Mormon. So you never know.
Mm,
You've got to just go little by little and do God's work and just be led by the Spirit, and I feel that. And that doesn't mean
absolutely.
being perfect. Like who did he shun? When Jesus came here, he didn't go to the Pharisees and the perfect people that were in church. He picked sinners, murderers. Like come on. Like, Paul was a disaster before he became Paul. Let's be real. You know, he was a Christian killing tax collector. And I mean, people don't get that. And I'm like, you do understand that was by a reason that he went to fishermen with tempers and all this stuff. So I feel like there's not enough of that today, because there is, but everybody puts a shiny coating on it. And they're like, look at me, I'm perfect,
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, look at me, I'm not perfect. Okay, I say certain things I shouldn't, or I do this or that, and I'm going to leave it in, and it's going to be raw because that's real. Like, would
Right.
you rather see that or some polished, perfect, it's not real. That's not real. If we all stopped being unreal, not necessarily fake, because I think people are real. But like, honestly, that's where people do want to get into that depression that spirals down, because they don't feel like they can ever measure up to A, B, or C. Right. Like
Yep.
that's not the way. I mean, how are you supposed to help somebody if you act like you're superior? Like, really, you're not
No.
helping anyone.
No.
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
And
Not
so I
at
don't do
all.
that. Yeah, I
Good.
just am like, here's this and that's that. And here I am. So if you need help, I'm here though. And I mean it. I don't just mean like when people say, I'll pray for you. And then they're like, yeah, they go home and maybe don't do it or whatever. I'm going to pray for
Or
you
talk
right then.
negatively.
Yeah. Like, why? What are you going to accomplish? Like, if I say crap about somebody else to you, you're just going to look at me and say, wow, she's a crusty bitch.
Yeah.
Really,
For
really,
real.
you're not gonna be like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's certain ways about it. Not that I don't ever say like, well, that was weird, but oh well,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
fine. Like,
It,
I mean, whatever, who cares? So that's my take on it. I mean, being a Mormon for all those years, Mormons push perfection. You really are expected, and especially as a woman, to maintain this level of like, this is how you are, this is who you need to be, this is how you need to look. If you look at the amount of women that are Mormon that have breast implants, you'll die laughing. They want to be perfect, but yet no tattoos, Becky, no tattoos. Right? So
uh-huh.
you can't do this, but you can do this. And it's stupid. She can do whatever she wants. Why are you judging her? Like, stop it. Like, really. If you really are the type of person that looks at someone and judges them for every little thing that you just see on the surface, you're not a good person. Like, I'm sorry. No, I take it back. You have work to do. We'll say it
Yes.
that way,
100%.
because that's
100%.
me judging, saying you're not a good person. So what I say is, try and do the work, and even then correct yourself. Like, here I am on TV, like, gonna tell a bunch of people, no, I said that wrong. Just do that. It's easy. That's easy to do. We're all wrong all the time. Like, it's fine.
All the time.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, I've
we all
been
fall
wrong
short.
on so many things.
Oh yeah.
Um, so, and I don't have any fear or shame to be like, you know what, I was wrong, or tell me
Yeah.
something about this, because I've always thought this on this topic. Please tell me what you think.
Educate me. Yeah, let me know what you
Change
think.
my mind,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
or at
change
least
my
try.
mind.
At least try.
Yeah.
I'll listen,
Yeah. Well, and that's the way
So
to be. That's the way to be, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, maybe these people are doing exactly what I was doing when I was in that space and going down the podcast rabbit hole.
mhm,
Maybe we're helping other people in that same headspace, because
could
there's
be.
not enough people. There's not enough people going out. People don't interact the same. People don't dress up to go places. They go in their pajamas and they don't give a shit. And they go to the movies with a blankie and their slippers. And like, I mean, when do you really get to go and feel really good about yourself? How often does that happen?
For me, none.
See? And you have to change that, like little by little, like, okay, today I'm going to change this about my day. I'm going to go spend 20 minutes by myself reading a book, going to the gym, something for me that I love, and that's going to happen today. And if that's a podcast, awesome. Like whatever that is. And
Yeah.
I just really feel like that's important.
Beyond the Shadows Podcast.
In the darkest corners of our universe lie spaces where even the light won't go.
Places where terror and the unknown lurk, always waiting.
Join Ryan and Scott on the Beyond the Shadows Podcast as we pull back the curtain and peer into the darkness.
We'll examine hauntings, true crimes, mysteries, UFOs, exorcisms, reincarnations, mysteries, and all things dark.
Join us as we go beyond the shadows.
Yeah, I mean, I was obviously lying when I said, but for me, none. But
right,
like
I get you.
obviously the podcast, and I also, like you just had stated, I like if I don't go to the gym, I feel like shit.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm a gym rat, and so I get that. Yep.
Yeah.
And
So,
and
like,
it's hard because people don't get that sometimes, right? Like,
no, they don't. It's
no,
weird
no.
that it's because I'm just like I just want to. I just the like I was like my ex-wife. I was like, I really need to go to the gym, and but I don't want to. And she's like, well, then don't. I'm like, I don't want you to
Yeah.
tell me don't, and I want you to push
Yeah,
me to
tell
go.
me to
Like,
tell me to go. Yeah.
yeah, you know what
Well,
I mean?
and when you can't, you feel it's a different headspace, even if it's a crappy workout. Like, and when I got hurt last year and I couldn't go, and I'm still not back up to where I was, and I'm never going to look like I ever go that much because I don't have a thyroid. And so it would be easy for me to say, well, never makes any difference anyway. I could just stay home. But you feel different. You really do.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be the gym for you guys, like
Right.
whatever it is, it could be reading. It could be, I'm not saying any of that. And
Could be
when
going for a hike or sitting
Yeah.
next to a river, just listening to the sounds of nature, things like that.
exactly
Any little
anything.
thing.
And we don't
So,
reach out to fellow humans anymore. Like yesterday, we were at the store, and it's a self-bagging grocery store. And this little old lady was trying to bag her groceries, and she had a lot of stuff. And I told my husband, go help her. Like, I'm good. I'll bag this side. You go do that side. And he's like, no way. She's going to think I'm weird. And so I approached her because I'm a woman. So easier, and
Yeah.
I scared her. That's how unapproachable we are now. I scared her by just tapping her on the shoulder. And I said, oh, he wants to help you and he's a good helper. And she wasn't so sure even about it. And I'm like, how sad is that in this day and age? She's like probably 80s,
Yeah.
and
That
we
is
don't do
sad.
that anymore, and I encourage people to do that. Those are the things Christ would do, right? Like put your life in perspective that way, which has helped me immensely, because when I was Mormon and I did all the things that you're supposed to do, and you have to check the box and check the box and check the box. Okay, I was doing all those things. I was miserable. I never had time for myself. I never did anything that I really enjoyed. I'm not saying that's everyone's reality that's a Mormon, but that was mine. And
Absolutely.
Utah has one of the highest depression rates, and they have huge amounts of SSRI. And so I'm like, well, maybe if we would just try and be better people to each other, it would change,
Mhm.
But here we are. So,
Yeah, I have a
and
story to go along with that grocery story. It was like 2020 that we were still wearing masks and stuff. I always like kept it like
yeah,
right
me
here,
too.
to my nose out all the time. But I was coming out of this convenience store. I just went into, I think I was getting my kids a snack, whatever. But this gentleman was coming out behind me, and I held the door open for him, and he comes out and he goes, "Oh my God, thank you." He's like, "I didn't know people did this anymore." And I was like, "Yeah, well, here you go."
Sometimes, yeah. And it's the little things, right?
Yeah.
That's so simple, but yet it isn't. It might mean everything to someone. Like, I say hi to people all the time. I talk to people randomly. I don't care. Like, whatever. What's it going to cause me? A moment of humiliation if I get turned down, like they look away and think I'm weird, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you just go on with your day. Like, who cares? You know what I mean?
You
Like,
never know who you're gonna touch
yeah,
either. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
could change somebody's day just by doing something like that takes you 2 seconds to do, or saying
exactly.
something. Like I started doing like saying something positive to at least one person every day. And I was in Pennsylvania, and this younger woman was walking down the sidewalk towards me, and I could tell she was like didn't really want to walk by me, but she like had to, because there was like a fence right there, and I was carrying a bunch of stuff too. And I was like, "Oh, your braids look really pretty." And she just like, as soon as I spoke, her head
She's
turned
like, "Are
the
you
other
talking to
way.
me?" Yeah.
And she just kept walking. I was like, and I just like, "Oh, well, you're welcome,"
Well,
and
I
just kept
mean,
going. So
but maybe it really did mean something, and you can never know.
true,
Like, we
true.
never know what happens when they go home or whatever. And I know, coming from like a really controlled religion, and I do think that part of what I'm going to say is not going to be widely loved. I know that for me, and the more I delved into Mormonism when I got out, and people always say, "Why can't you just leave it alone? Just walk away and leave it alone. Like, if it wasn't for you, leave it alone." Okay, let's address it. Because I was lied to, because I wore Freemason underwear for a whole bunch of years of my life. Um, because I did Freemason ceremonies against my will because I didn't know what I was doing. Because all these things, I'm angry. I don't care if you're a Freemason lodge and you have a sign that says we're Freemasons and we do this stuff, then the person going in there knows what they're going to do.
Right.
It's like self-explanatory. But I didn't. And they lied to me and said, this Freemason ceremony, this weird stuff you're going to do is going to help you go to heaven. That's different. That's not the same thing. And so when I got out of all that, I realized, okay, why is this happening? So of course, researcher, I get crazy, start researching everything. And I'm finding all these things about John D and about like different religions. So here's the thing. And I don't know if you saw my show with Drew and all those guys, but it's a 2-parter, so probably got cut anyway.
Yeah, it was
But
like it was only an hour.
right. And the occult origins of things. Okay. If it is over something you're doing, then whatever the intention is of that group is going to magnify with whatever you're doing. It doesn't really matter about your heart specifically. It matters about the group think, right? That's why there's hive minds. That's why there's, bees. I mean, we're the beehive state. Utah is the beehive state. So if we have this situation where you've got all these things and you're trying to be perfect, do all the stuff, and where is the power ultimately going, right? So if you're doing it for our prophet who believes they get direct revelation from God, and that's because I believe we do these sigils to power and give them power. What does the power give for necromancy? Why do people do it? Like, people aren't just weirdos and do this stuff. Like, why would you do it? Why would they do that? Like, who would just sit at home and be like, today I'm going to do this? Like, it's weird, you know?
I'm going to defile.
Yeah. Like, why would you do that?
A past boss.
And I mean, I get it. But like, you're not going to sit home and think of this big ritual that we do. And what does it go to? It goes to Abraxas, because his mother, Joseph Smith's mother, the founder of the church, has a quote, and this biography she wrote, they couldn't get rid of. They tried. They tried and tried and tried. And they tried to burn it. They tried to do all kinds of stuff. And it said that, don't for 1 second, this is a paraphrase, think that we stop serving the House of Abrax just because we've been busy with this whole Book of Mormon thing, right? Okay. Well, if you know what the House of Abrax is, it's Abraxas, the chicken snake god. And so Abraxas is a necromancer. And necromancy gives you power to see the future. And what do we believe the prophet has? Power to talk to God for prophecy.
Yes.
So it all goes back to making sense. So who really is their God? That's the thing, right? They say it's Jesus, but their Jesus doesn't look like any Jesus I've ever seen. Have you ever seen a Mormon Jesus?
I have not. I would
Well,
love.
he looks like me. He looks like my brother. You could Google him. If you put Mormon, like blonde hair and like blue eyes, like Jesus looked like that, right? Because Jesus was from the Middle East.
Yeah. Well, even like the normal depiction of him isn't accurate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, he should be way darker than that.
Well, the picture of Jesus that Catholics use came from the Pope's nephew. And
I thought it was his son.
Yeah, it's the Pope's nephew, and he was actually Agrippa's lover, gay lover. And so and he was a very handsome man. They said, oh, well, he's kind of handsome. So, I mean, to their standards. So they put him in there, and I have the name or whatever, we can find it. But anyway, long story short, that's who it is. And I think the Mormons saw it. One thing about Mormons is they're one-uppers. They just are. And so they saw that and they were like, just wait till you see our Jesus. Our Jesus is going to be even more white and delightsome than your Jesus. No, so he is. He looks like he could be like straight European, which we know it's not true. And I mean, I tell my daughter all the time, because she still goes to school with all the Mormon kids, and I'm like, dude, Jesus was definitely brown, if not black. Like, he was definitely brown, you know?
Yes, for sure.
And she's like, well, all the kids at school think he looks like this. And I'm like, yeah, well, they're wrong, you know? And so I'm just like, we don't know for sure, but I definitely know the people from the area he was from don't look like blonde hair and blue eyes. That's silly.
Right.
And so back to Abraxas, I feel like they use all this necromancy. They use baptisms for the dead. They do baptisms for the dead and way. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So the first time you ever, I'm sorry, my voice is being crazy. The first time you ever go through the temple, you go for yourself. The next time you go through, you go for dead people, and they encourage you to go 1 to 2 times a month. Kids get baptized when they're 8. And after that, when they're about 12 to 16, they get baptized for the dead. And so the reason why these websites like ancestry.com isn't owned by the Mormons. However, LDS, look up, like, it's like ldssearch.org or something like that, pours into that website, and theirs was first. And like any good Mormon does, they never want to own it outright. So the guy that probably owns it is probably affiliated with Mormons, but he's not going to be like part representation of the church. right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
that they can say like, oh, we don't know what you're talking about, you know, because right, then they can say that.
Yeah.
So they have us do our genealogy to get all the names of all the dead people and see if they've been baptized, if they've been sealed to their husband or wife, to see if they have their temple rights. And if they don't, then we put them into a log. And the next time somebody goes to the temple, say your uncle was George Costanza, because that's funny. And and they didn't have their stuff done, and you give them that name, and then I go to the temple and I get that name that day, and that's who I am. But it wouldn't be a man. You get what I'm saying? I would get a woman, but so they do everything by proxy. It is weird because at the end of the day, they're saying we're doing all this to prepare for the end days so that these people can go to heaven too, because their stuff didn't get done. But at the end of the day, it's necromancy. It's weird. It's not, it's very skull and bonesy,
Yeah, that's the definite vibe that I'm getting from that. Like,
Yep.
that's the strangest thing I've ever heard. I didn't know that.
Goes on and on. And by the way, mentioning skull and bones, I think I forgot to tell the other guys this, but the president of the church right now, they call it the president, but we used to call it the prophet. And they believe that he is divinely set apart and receives direct revelation from God. Okay. He was a Skull and Bones member. He didn't go to Yale, but they have multiple factions of the Skull and Bones stuff.
Right,
And he's a
yeah.
doctor, and he is a member of the Skull and Bones Society. He wrote a biography years and years ago, not knowing, here we go with the biographies again, not knowing that he would be the prophet of the church someday. And ding, guess what? Yeah, now he's the prophet. And that book now is $1,300.
Of course it is.
Right?
Of
Like they
course
can
it
scrub
is.
it from the internet. It's not going anywhere. Come on, let's be real. Like you
Yeah.
may as well lower the price of your book, because we all know. But
Mm.
so
Yeah,
all
I'm
of
sure
this
there's
stuff.
somebody out there that has it too,
Oh, for sure. And they put it on the internet because you can look it up. But I'm just like, all of this information, like when you get out and then you're like, oh my gosh, like we're doing all this weird stuff. And then the dead people, and then this and that. And like it all gets really weird feeling when you're even in there. Like if you're close with God, like I was always close with God, even though I grew up Mormon, I always knew who God was because I had this really hard life. And so I figured it out on my own how to pray, like even if it wasn't good, like not good, big fancy prayers, like just talking to God. And I knew when I got in there, I was like, what are we doing? Like, what is happening? I remember being like sitting by my grandma and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this weird stuff? And she's like, don't worry, you'll get used to it. And that's the other part. You're indoctrinated in, like your whole family's in.
Don't worry, you'll
You
get
can't.
used to it.
Yeah, don't worry.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, oh, this is bad because I don't want to get used to it, right? If you have to do anything like that, how do you want to feel about that when you're in there? It's supposed to be the best day of your life. You have been told since you were like 4 years old, I'm going to go to the temple someday. God wants me there, blah, blah, blah. And what does the Bible say? No, he doesn't live in temples. What happened when Jesus came to the temple? He wasn't thrilled about it, right? And so it just is surprising to me that more people don't make parallels, but I didn't either. Like I was completely indoctrinated and was the same way. So when you get there, you just think, oh, well, that's the natural next step, right?
I saw this TV show. I don't know if they based this like this group of people off of Mormons, but that's kind of because I'm still kind of like ignorant on like the Mormon religion to begin with. I had a woman on who also used to be a Mormon who isn't now, and she told me some about it, like basically like the like John D or Joseph Smith or whatever. He just like made everything up, and then that's how polygamy came about. He was just having an affair on his wife, and then he didn't want to be in trouble, and like was just like, oh well, God told me to take 2 wives. But anyways, like this, I can't remember the name of the show, but no, it was a movie, and they have to sacrifice they have to pick a sacrifice out of like their children, and they have like 10, 15 children, and they pick this one girl, and she runs away and stuff, and she gets adopted by this family or whatever, and they try to keep her safe, and then all this weird stuff happens, and is just it was weird. Like they had to like sacrifice her as like almost like a witch. Like they put her on this like pedestal thing, and they were trying to burn her, and then the woman who like took her in came and saved her. But like it was just
wow.
like it, and they had to wear well, I guess it gave me more Amish vibes, but like so
Right.
I guess what a roundabout way is just like what were the rituals like that you had to like go through?
Well, and I'll get to the rituals, but what you just said. So just to put a little plug in there, Joseph Smith had 11 children, right? 2 were adopted, so 9 of his were his.
Biological.
6 died in infancy. 6. I mean, I'm not saying they did anything per se, but my Lord, 6. Now people will say, oh, that was the time back then, right? Okay, but how come then Joseph Smith's parents did not lose any children in childbirth or anything else? They're older. They're even older. So I felt like that was worthwhile to mention because of what you said. It doesn't have anything to do with the rituals that we do in there, but the rituals that we do in there are so the kids, when they go to get baptized for the dead people, they go and there's this bowl. You might want to look it up. There's 12 oxen and a golden bowl, and you're baptized, put a baptism for the dead, and then put font. I want you to see because it's funny.
What are you?
I shouldn't.
Golden bowl.
Baptism for the dead font.
Oh. Baptism. God damn, I can't type sometimes.
I can never. Yeah, I'm the queen of typos. So when you see it, you'll see 12 oxen holding up this giant bowl, and it's like golden. And I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Do you see that? That's so weird looking. And they're like, oh, it's the 12 tribes of Israel. And I'm like, okay. But then we take a bunch of innocent children, because most of the time adults don't do this. This is kind of for kids between the ages of 12 and 16, and they have to be pure, like morally clean. And it just really, really reminds me of child sacrifice back in the day of Moloch. Like we're going to put them in the belly of the beast, right? In the middle of a bowl, and like baptize them, but they're for dead people, baptizing for dead people. And I'm just like, okay, I get it. But at the same time, like, really? Like it looks creepy. Wow. I'm sorry. It does. Like
it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all like gold and white, but still like that's weird.
And so they do that. Our rituals are about endowments for the dead and for us. So your endowment is your session. I'll tell you, Joseph Smith went through and became a Freemason. He got his Masonic rights. And then 6 weeks later, he made this temple ceremony. Okay. So exactly like right after he went through and did the Mason rites. And that's kind of like a temple ceremony. So it is very similar. We go through this whole skit of like, you have to know, okay, you go in, they do initiatory, which is also similar in the OTO as well as Freemasonry. Back in the olden days, my great grandma told me they would scrub them clean. Thank heavens that wasn't for me. It was bad enough for me. I had a poncho on and it's open like up the sides. And they can slip their hand in like this and just bless like right here. They don't touch you anywhere sexual, but it's still pretty awkward, you know? And then so this lady, this is how indoctrinated I am at this point. This lady is doing this to me, and I'm like thinking, okay, she's definitely not a man, and you have to have the priesthood to do these blessings, and only men can hold the priesthood. And I've known that since I was a child. So I was like, where's the guy? And she's like, well, you're not dressed. I'm like, yeah, but you can't do it. And she's like, well, I mean, this is how it is in the temple. And I'm like, that was my number one ding. Like, okay, this something's sketchy here, because this doesn't work any other place, right? Women can't hold the priesthood. So I was like, that's weird. Whatever. We move on. After initiatory, you get dressed, you get your new underwear, you get your new name. You get a new name, just like in Freemasonry. You get a new garments, undergarments, just like in Freemasonry. You put on a white dress, and then these robes that go over one shoulder that show one breast exposed, like not naked, because you have a dress on.
Right. Just like Freemason.
But Freemasons or
they
OTO.
got that banner.
Yep. OTO members. We have a apron, just like Freemasons. So it's all the same. And I think that's what got him killed, because even the handshakes that we do to go through the temple veil are Freemason handshakes. So the true sign of the true sign of the lion's paw is the true sign of the nail for us. He just changed it into like Jesus stuff, you know.
Oh my God.
And so no wonder he got killed, because the Masons were probably like, you showed girls Freemason stuff. Like, you can't do that, because you know how the Freemasons are about that. Like, they're not playing. And the whole thing about Freemasonry is not supposed to be shared with like women. Hello, you know, that's not a thing. And so I'm sure that's part of the reason why he got offed, but that's not what they say.
That sounds like that's giving like,
Freemasonry for the whole family.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's funny too, because I forget like things that I've witnessed in my life sometimes. And my girlfriend from high school, my ex-girlfriend, my first ever girlfriend, her grandfather was a Freemason, and then he got her dad to be a Freemason. And I remember him putting a magnet on her car. Like, she just bought her a car. We were 16. She just got her first car, and he put a magnet that it was the Freemason symbol on it. And he's like, this is so you don't get pulled over. And I was like, what? She's like,
yeah, it's a big club.
Yeah, he's like, you'll never get pulled over by a cop while you have this magnet, so don't lose the magnet. And I was just like, I remember like being like, what the hell is this?
They take care of each other.
Yeah. And then her grandfather died, and they found a bunch of weird shit on his computer, like pictures of dead bodies and like severed heads and shit like that. It was fucking the weirdest shit that you could ever find on somebody's especially an old man's laptop.
Right. You don't expect that. Yeah. You don't expect it.
It was like, this was like what, 2006, 2005. So like the computer's already like, I mean, I know we were just like turning the age of time. Like, I think what the first Windows was 98 or whatever.
Right.
But for him to be in his like 70s and to be able to
have all that weird stuff on there.
I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And I thankfully I didn't see anything. I just heard them talking about it, and I was just like, what?
You're like, I don't want to see that. Ew.
And then thinking about it, like, for like stories that I hear of like from the Freemasons and like all these rituals, I almost wonder if there was like kid pictures on there, you know what I mean?
It makes you wonder, because there's so much, like, they're never happy. The thing is if they were happy with money and power, they already have the money and the power. So what do you do to be even more powerful in a world where you have or own everything? You have to go to the most debauchery that you can go to, which is always children. So I listened to this podcast about a guy that was out of witchcraft, but he was like a high up witch. And he said, the currency is children, and children are worth so much, depending, like, I guess a boy that's really worth a lot. If they're like innocent boy, then innocent girl, then it goes on from there. And I believe it, because really money is just numbers in your bank account. Like, think about it. You really don't, even if you buy if you go buy a whole bunch of crap, like, what does it give you? Nothing, right? It gives you nothing. And so at some point it runs out of like ways to be, I guess, cool. I don't know. And so that's why you see all this weird stuff, and then the gnosis that goes with it. And I'm not bagging anybody. If they want to go that route, as long as you're not hurting people, now that's where it has to stop.
Yes.
Freemasons oftentimes don't hurt anyone, and they have many orders that are just normal, and they're not like that. But then there's the high up echelon of anything. I feel like it's religion, it's clubs, it's anything like that. If it gets high enough, we get into this whole situation. It's like, how bad can you be? It used to be like, oh, we'll tell your wife you're cheating. And now nobody cares. So they're like, oh, we'll tell your wife you're gay. Nobody cares now. So now what do you got to go to? It just goes up and up and up. It's just how it is,
And children are never going to be an acceptable thing, I don't think.
No, I would hope not. I would pray not. But
right. I mean,
but,
there was a time, I think about a year and a half ago, where I thought they were really pushing to change that for a little bit, and I was getting really fucking worried.
Getting hope. I was getting hope when we had a different president, but that didn't even happen then, and I'm like, okay, well, politics are always going to lean toward, they're never going to hold a line in the mud, because the reason why is they may need help from that person someday, right? So they're never going to be like, all animal abusers are bad, like, or all child abusers are bad. They're always going to be like, well, it's sort of bad, but then blah, blah, blah. Like, they dance, and it's always the same.
Yeah. And, well, I was referring to like the map thing, them trying to change the name of pedophiles, and like, no, they're minor attracted people. And I was getting really scared right there. But like, yes, no, when we had a different president, I thought I
thought he was going to bust it out. Yeah.
So did I.
I mean,
and he never did. But another thing too, he friggin' switched the Federal Reserve from Vanguard to BlackRock, and BlackRock owns Vanguard. So that didn't make any sense to me. That was the only weird thing that he did, I think. You know what I mean?
I think it's, if you get up, honestly, in my opinion, minus politics, if you have more than $500,000 and you didn't have it given to you or something, or you didn't like really hit a lucky business thing, you probably did something bad. Like, really, it, on some level, it doesn't have to be really bad. Like, maybe at 500,000, you just know about somebody skimming money, or I don't know, whatever. There's levels to everything in life, right?
For sure.
And so here we are. And that's what they say. A lot of people say Mormons are right up there helping rule the world with Jesuits and everything else. And I don't doubt it, because they're really into AI. They're really into like necromancy stuff. Oh, well, yeah.
The necromancy. Yeah. As I'm learning. But AI, they're into really.
They're into development. They were one of the first people on board with like internet changes. They changed all their like to go to the temple right away to digital. Like, they're on board. Also, by the way, the thing from 2020 that will never go away, they were one of the first people to come out to their congregations and say, you need to go get the thing to cure this.
In a world where the ordinary meets the extraordinary, prepare the journey beyond the veil of reality to uncover secrets that defy explanation. Welcome to A Dead Letter Podcast, where we delve into the mysterious and unexplained phenomena that have fascinated humans for centuries. In each episode, we will explore some of the most intriguing and spine-tingling aspects of the paranormal world. But beware, for the line between reality and the supernatural is thinner than you think. Will you dare to listen?
The jab to their kids,
Wow.
to them. Like, you have no business as a nurse for 24 years. I'm telling you this, you have no business giving anyone medical advice unless you know an extensive history. That's wrong. Because what's fine for you or me is not fine for so-and-so or so-and-so.
Right.
You know, that's
Right.
wrong.
Everybody's bodies reacts to things a little
Yes.
bit differently, you know, even though 10 people might be okay with something, the 11th person
Yep.
could be catastrophic to them. You know
It
what I mean?
could. And that was not safe. And for them to push it, like, if you want to go do it, go knock yourself out. Like, I would say definitely read some information, but at this point I've argued with people till I'm blue in the face. If you haven't got it by now, you don't want to see the writing on the wall, I can't help you, you know. But with kids, that's just so wrong. Like, to tell a
Yes.
congregation, go do this for everyone. Like, that's just, I mean, yeah, I just think it's over the line. You
Yes.
know,
My ex-wife, you know, she did the thing, and as soon as I like realized that, you know, she did, I called her and I was like, listen, the kids are not. I was like, I'm not, the kids aren't. And she goes, well, what if they need it for school? I was like, well, then they're getting pulled from
they won't
school.
go to that school. Yeah.
And she
Yep.
said, oh, she's like, you can't pull the kids out of school. Kendall will be
Yes, you
devastated.
can.
And I was like, well, Kendall will get over it. She's young.
She'll be alive.
I'd rather her be alive than like risking something happening to her.
Yeah.
Luckily she ended up not like ever doing anything. So
Thank
and
heavens.
I randomly will ask the kids too. I'll just be like, hey, when you guys were at the doctor's, did you get like
Right.
a
Yeah.
shot or something?
You didn't
They're
get a
like,
shot, right?
no.
Yeah, no kidding. I was stressed
So
about that too with my ex. Luckily, the one thing that I had being a nurse when we got a divorce, I insisted two things. I would be over all the schooling and I will be over all the medical. And so it wasn't, and I literally said, if you do it without my knowledge, I will sue you. Like, it will happen. Like, I am that serious. And he's my friend, you know?
Yeah.
And he was like, whoa, calm down, crazy. And I'm like, I'm just saying, like, I'm willing to, when my husband found out he might have to do it for his job, I was like, I will go live. I bought a travel trailer and I'm a tent girl, but like, it's probably good timing because I hurt my back really bad. But I said, I will live in that travel trailer with you before we do that. No way. Nope. We're not doing that. And he was like, you're a bit wild right now. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, if a woman tells you that with all these kids, like, I mean, we only have 4 left. Well, 3 left at home now. And so he knew, like, I was dead serious, like, to live in that small of a space. Like, yeah, with a dog, giant dog. I have a giant dog.
A giant dog.
Oh, he's so big. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I would rather live in that tiny trailer and have you with me than have you gone. Like, I'm not willing to take that chance, you know?
Yeah.
And
so far
yeah.
for me personally, I think granted, I don't know if this is because of this. I just know that it was like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks after, you know, my uncle, one of my uncles got it. He was gone. So,
Yep.
and that
I've
was
known a lot of people.
last year, I think. It was just a
Well,
heart attack.
and
It was a heart attack.
I always shout out the Last American Vagabond, Ryan
Mhm.
Christian. He has his
Yep.
own website. He's amazing. He was my backup because he won't just tell you. He'll list all of the JAMA studies, all of the links, everything at the bottom, and you can just go look at them yourself. Like, if you don't believe him, cool, go look at it. Go read a freaking study. And for me as a nurse, that was awesome because I did. And I was like, no, this is not okay. And I got in many not arguments, but discussions at work. And the best one, this doctor, I was like talking to someone one about the masks and everything and about OSHA and how OSHA doesn't even, the guy that does the masks doesn't even support it, blah, 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 blah. And he came up behind me, but I didn't know, right? Like, and so I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, and it's bad. And then I hear from the background, like, that's not true. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I was like, is that the doctor? Like, and I just, turn around and he's like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. And so we went back and forth. He's like, well, send me that information. And I almost did. I was like, how much do you value your job? Like I was just like, oh, you're already pushing it because you're not going to get it. You better shut up. Like, and I didn't send it. Okay. So we fast forward to now. Every time that doctor sees me, he's like, hey, you smart girl, when are you going to come back more? Like, I'm like, he doesn't have to say I was right. He's just always like, doctors don't do that to nurses. We're like wallpaper. Okay. Like we're just there. And he goes out of his way now to be like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, because you knew I was right. I told you. Yeah. I'm like, I said what I said. And here's my thing with whether, sorry, I gotta adjust a little bit. My back is trash. My thing is unless I have statistics, I will say this is my personal opinion, blah, blah, blah. But if it's a fact, I will say this is this fact. This is where you can go check it out. Go read a book. Or go read an article, like, because I do all the time. People think we just hop on these podcasts and we're like, oh yeah, we just BS'd for 2 hours. Like, it might seem like that because it should. If we get on here and it seems super weird, then it's not a good podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It has to feel
110%.
normal. Yeah.
But a lot of people too, though, that oppose that view will not go read that stuff.
No, they won't.
I've gotten into Facebook arguments where they're like, I've said A, and their comeback was, well, where do you get this? And then I'll be like, from here. And then they'll be like, well, you just listed a doctor's name. I was like, well, look into the doctor, and then you'll find that what I'm referencing or something, or they just won't read it if it's a direct article. So they'll just be like, oh yeah, that can be debunked, or that it'll be debunked by
just wait and see. The second paragraph said blah blah blah. I'm like, you didn't make it to the end.
Yeah,
go to the end of the article. I took an allergy pill. Let's hope this will settle down. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Like fine. I said, I'm allergic to the world, which is why I got out of it, right? So those types of things, I just think the church should stay out of. In Utah, there's no separation of church and state. Like everything is circulated around Mormonism. It's like, it is a cult. I mean, like, people want to talk about like, oh, you survived a cult. What cult was it? And then you're like, Mormons. And they're like, that's not a cult. I'm like, really? You should go try and be one for a while. You go to the ceremony. And so
organized sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Organized religion is our cults, all of them. No matter well, you're Christian. I'm not saying like
I'm a non-denominational,
right, like being like identifying as a certain religion, I don't think is culty. But like, I mean, even like fucking people like I just found out that freaking the Senate is taking freaking Vanguard and all these companies to court over hedge funds, and they're passing a bill so that like, and this is like good for the housing market, but everybody's worried about fucking that Tony Romo fucking called Taylor Swift fucking Travis Kelce's wife, and they're not paying attention to freaking the government, and nobody pays attention to what the government is doing. That's how they get away with it. But
they don't really care. They don't really care anymore. Like, nobody cares. If it isn't in 15 seconds on TikTok, we're losing you, like, most of the time. Right? Like,
for sure.
I mean, it's impossible.
It's sad too. Like, and they don't, the whole like basis of a cult is pick a organized religion. You have to follow everything to like a T to what that certain religion is, and And then you get certain ones that have like these weird rituals, just like Mormons.
Oh yeah,
as I'm finding out right now.
Oh yeah.
With
Well,
a big bathtub and
our
golden knot.
underwear. Yeah, and our underwear alone, like our underwear have Freemason signs on the nipples. Like what?
No, they don't.
Oh,
really?
Google Mormon garment. And I'm like, okay. I thought for my whole life on the nipples it was darts. Do you know what darts are for, like sewing? And look at these underwear. Like they're the compass and the square, and then over the knee is the ruler. And what am I invoking? What was I invoking for 15 years of my life? Because I didn't, let's see, how long? I was 34 years, so I was 20. So yeah, 15 years of my life, I wore these. And the cult of conspiracy, when I sent them to Jonathan, he said, Heidi, I'm sorry, I'm like hysterically laughing, just picturing you. He's like, not in a sexual way. It's just hilarious. He's like, they're so funny. And I'm like, I get it, and you have to wear them closest to your skin. You can never take them off. There's a certain, you can only take them off. So you take them off to swim, to shower, or make more Mormons, or go to the gym.
Oh my goodness.
So, and you can't wear your bra underneath it. You have to wear your bra over it. Do you know how fun those long, it has to be closest to your skin. Do you know how fun that is to have lady problems with that crotch? Do you see how long the crotch is on those women's underwear? It's like 40 feet long.
Those are like my gym underwears.
Yeah, it's terrible. And they go clear to the knee. They have a cap sleeve. You want to talk about no more cute sundresses, and that's not the point. But I'm just saying, if they can, my husband loves to make this joke. If they can control your underwear and make you not drink coffee, they can do anything. And because you can't drink coffee. You can't drink coffee.
You can't drink coffee.
So here's the thing.
Oh my God, I would die.
I would too. I was sad.
You did.
So
you did.
I did it. I drink Mormon coffee. They have something called Paro, and it's Mormon coffee. Yeah. So it's made out of barley, because technically everybody says it wrong. They're like, oh, and the Mormons can't drink caffeine. I'm like, no. I'll tell you a funny joke. How do you tell a good Mormon from a bad Mormon?
I don't know.
The temperature of their caffeine in the morning, because good Mormons drink Diet Coke or Coke, and bad Mormons drink coffee. And so it's the word of wisdom technically said you shouldn't drink hot drinks. Okay. So if we want to get technical about it,
you can drink,
then that means hot cocoa, which they produce. They have their own welfare system, and they produce hot cocoa, which actually has more caffeine in it than a cup of coffee. Yeah. And sugar. You want to talk about some not all, but like some obesity issues. I was never more fat than I was when I was a Mormon, which I have issues because I don't have a thyroid, because I had thyroid cancer. But I'm just saying, in general, food is their drug. Like food is their drug, sex is their drug. And they have a ton of problems with like pornography stuff. And does the church say to do that? No. Of course. So
lust and gluttony is
problem, because they're safe, church. Right? They're safe. That's safe things, because now you're not smoking. And the whole thing, in my opinion, Joseph Smith's wife, now this is opinion, probably got sick of every time they had a meeting at her house having to serve coffee or tea. If they say no more hot drinks, then Miss Emma can go to bed and say, screw y'all, and I'm going to sleep. And he didn't like the tobacco, because back then they would spit it on the floor and she would have to clean it up. And so that all makes a ton of sense. Like,
that does make sense.
If you're trying to make happy wife, happy life, like, you're going to have some premonitions from God that help your life out, bro. Like, come on, let's be real. Like, she got sick of it. And plus he's like banging the farm girl. So like, I mean, he was banging a lot of girls. So all of this polygamy stuff, when he started it, he actually had more of an open marriage type policy where he felt like it was okay for women or men. And he was marrying so you want to know how the door knockers came about? The missionaries,
Yes.
So
I knew what you meant.
Okay. Some people are like, what? And so the door knockers came about because if he saw somebody's wife and he's like, oh, I kind of like Martha over there. Hey, Martha's husband, you need to go on a mission. to go talk to the Native Americans.
Oh, no
Right?
shit.
I mean, it makes sense. And then,
Yeah.
you know, he was fine about her doing stuff too. So that was the weird part, because that isn't how it is anymore. If you're a polygamist or a fundamentalist, which I was telling you, my brother-in-law is twice related to Warren Jeffs, he is the president of the fundamentalist Mormon church. And he's in prison because of marrying too young a wives. And so, you know, he told me, he's like, okay, these rules for them are so stringent. And so like, whatever for the women, like you can't have another husband. You can only have wives, blah, blah, blah. You have to have 3 wives, at least 3, to get to heaven, to get to the top heaven. 'Cause there's 3 heavens. Yes. Mormons, they're one-uppers. Remember what I said?
Yes.
So you have 1 heaven, we have 3 heavens. And he definitely read the Magus. He had to have read the Magus, and he had to have read, in my opinion, he had to have read the Magus and probably Agrippa or the Book of the Cow, like the homunculus book. It's a weird book.
Yeah.
And his mom was Scottish, and she was a Scottish healer.
Yeah.
So it makes complete sense, because they tell us one story. So they tell us this is fun because it's occulty. Okay. So they're like, oh, and then Joseph prayed, and there's 5 different versions of this story, by the way. And he saw God and Jesus, because they're separate people for Mormons. They don't believe in the Trinity. And so they're like, oh, here's where the golden plates are, blah, blah, blah. And it's low, and you just see like this bright white light, and he goes and digs them up in the hill, and it's all like a wonderful, beautiful spring day. Okay, that's not what happened. The reason why we know that's not what happened is because Joseph Smith was a treasure digger, and he sucked at it. And so he got in trouble and ended up in court. And in court, his neighbors submitted affidavits about his whatever he was doing. And there was a very in-depth affidavit about how and what he said about getting these plates, that he got them on the fall equinox after midnight, close to 3 a.m., dressed in all black, and had to borrow a black horse to go meet this crazy angel in the middle of the night. Does that sound like the other story I told you about long, like beautiful, angelic white lights? And no. And so
that sounds like very dark.
It sounds scary, right?
Yes.
And so I'm like, and here's the funny thing. So he got married right before that, and his wife was there with him. Okay, this is my conjecture. He was a virgin scryer until he got married. He got married that night, and they were coming to go get these plates. Okay. My guess is they hadn't been marital yet, because he's going to get the plates and he has to be all these things, right? And so he gets them, and 9 months later, she has a baby. Okay. So literally 9 months later, that baby was born extremely deformed, stillborn, and his brother had died right before that. Remember how you were talking about child sacrifice is important to people, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. The brother, which would have been his dad's firstborn, died right before that, and they named this deformed baby the brother's name.
Wow.
You want to tell me about sacrifice? It wasn't like it just died. It was noted. It was extremely deformed. Extremely. So I'm sorry to say. And then the whole thing with his brother later, he dies, and the angel said, you're supposed to bring your brother. So the brother dies, bro. What's he gonna do? Right? He's dead. And so they're like, oh crap, what do we do about this brother? So it's really weird. The dad takes out a newspaper clipping that says, hey, if anybody wants to know, we didn't dig up our son, because we would never dig up our son. and our son wasn't dug up, but we're going to dig him up to make sure he wasn't dug up, to prove to everyone that he didn't get dug up in the newspaper. And so what are you talking about, right?
What the hell?
That's pregame like a mofo.
Yeah, I'd say the hell so.
I think
Oh
so.
my-
I think they dug him up and took a finger or something to appease the angel. There's no proof.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, who does that? Who takes out an article, And then we get into the John Dee factor. Everybody wants to say Joseph Smith was this huge plagiarizer and he made it all up, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe it, because here's the problem. Muhammad saw an angel. He saw Gabriel and he wrote down all the things, made it into a book, and it became a religion, right? But also there was a dark side of it. He had to implement what? Polygamy. Okay. Then we have John Dee. He saw angels, many. He wrote many books that became the foundation for many esoteric religions. And what was required of him? Wife swapping. Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard out in the desert, what were they doing? Messing around with angels. What happened? They had to swap wives. Okay, and do butt stuff. Like that got even worse,
and
for
jerk
them.
each other off.
Exactly. And what happens? They write it all down and it becomes Scientology.
Yeah.
Yep. And Joseph Smith saw not just one angel. They like to lie and say that 23 documented angels, not for me. That's their history, not my problem, including his dead brother. He wrote it down and it became a religion. Here's my favorite one to do the clincher. Aleister Crowley didn't see an angel because he wouldn't have accepted an angel, but he sure did see an alien named Aiwass, and Aiwass gave him a whole bunch of information that he wrote down, and it became the Book of the Law, which became Thelema. You tell me.
Didn't
just saying.
Didn't Crowley didn't his book sound like familiar to or relatively close to a book that was written before?
He wrote so many books. So John Dee, Crowley totally ripped off John Dee in many ways, but in that particular book, it was a lot. It was a little bit different, but he did rip off the Enochian alphabet. Actually, Joseph Smith called it Reformed Egyptian because he didn't know any better. He thought it was, they give us this story that he was just scribing in this beautiful bright light room and he's just writing. No, that wasn't what it was. He had his head in a hat with a scrying rock. It was a magical seer stone. He would put the stone in a hat, block out all light, just like Nostradamus, just like John Dee, right? Block out the light. What do you use? A stone. John Dee used the black mirror, but it wasn't really a mirror. It was obsidian. Okay. It was completely dark. It was blacked out. We're talking about minerals that have certain properties, probably. Okay. And so we're talking about automatic writing and channeling here. I mean, I have no doubt. And the problem is, it's just too similar. You want to tell me that that's not true? Okay. Joseph Smith took a sample of the writings of the actual symbols. He wanted to get them vetted. So that they were Egyptian, Reformed Egyptian. And actually they were no, we're not doing that. At first the dude was yeah, it looks like it. But then he was bruh, give that back. He's I don't want anything to do with your crazy stuff. Right. And so they were no. And so I looked at it and it's totally the Enochian alphabet. But here's the funny thing. He didn't even know that. He didn't even know.
No, really?
Yep. Nope. He didn't even know. And so that tells me he got it from somewhere. Everybody wants to say it was high on mushrooms or crazy. I'm just saying, I think it was something way higher,
Yeah.
That's
maybe
my
a
opinion.
mix of both.
It could be. I think he definitely interjected his own stuff because come on.
Yeah, for sure.
How narcissistic do you have to be to have 30 wives and make a religion? But probably pretty narcissistic, but it is what it is. I'm just saying Yeah. Anybody that's a leader like that, come on, they're always trying to, and it's all, what does it always have? It always has a tie to sex magic, right? The two were polygamy and the others were weird stuff, but it all goes back to sex magic, always. And I mean, I'm just saying there's power in it, and these demons, people don't want to talk about demons, but I'm just like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the King James Bible was compiled by King James for sure. But he also made 3 books about demons. Like, maybe you should know your history. Why would he
Was
do
it
the
3?
books?
I thought it was 1.
3. Nope,
Oh,
3. There's
all
3
right.
books, Demonologia. And so why would he give us that though? It's not about the book. It's about the concept. As above, so below. There is a hierarchy of everything. And here's why I study this stuff. People are always, especially my mom, she's like, oh my gosh. I to put it out there, I don't own any Crowley books. I will read it online, but I won't have that in my house.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. There's certain things I am not gonna, and I already get messed with enough. No, thank you. But they exist and they're there. We can look at them online. I'm telling you this, people that are afraid of knowledge just stunt themselves, because there is a hierarchy above. Just like if you look up a hierarchy below, the demons are listed and how many legions are under them and very specific things. Why would that be? Why? Because it all makes sense. And if you want to win,
you need to know the other side.
Yes, because like I see you've got a Bulls hat on. If you want to win a game, what do you study? Their old plays, right?
Yeah.
So you better know what they're bringing to the table. You better know what they've been playing. Like, you have to look. You cannot be afraid of it. And what does the church do? Makes us afraid of it. Why? Because they don't want us to figure it out. But yet we hold the black mirror in our hand every single day. How does this work? And why is it black until I touch it? Why is it made out of liquid crystal display, LCD? And what did John Dee use? Obsidian. It was a crystal. I'm sorry, people. Like, this is forbidden knowledge. And you don't have to be afraid, but you definitely need to know, I mean, at least if you want to have a leg in the fight. I want to have a leg in the fight.
I would like to, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what we're they already have, like we were saying earlier, they already have the money, they already have the power. What is the next best thing there? It's taking our spiritual energy. That's why they're going,
taking your spirit in general. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why they go after the children, like, and they're a society. People without hope are easier to control.
We're just gonna go for. Oh, we don't know. Don't know if I'm gonna need. Do I need a thumbnail for this one? I don't know. Are we ready? If you love all things dark history and paranormal, you're in the right place. Hi, What was that? Do you hear that? I'm trying to record the introduction for my brand new YouTube channel, and there are noises coming from behind me, which there shouldn't be. Like, I'm completely home alone right now. It's a B&M chair. Cheap LEDs. It's just cardboard boxes. It's a puppy! Hi! And there's also a cat. There are no ghosts. I made it all up. I know, I got you with my good acting. Yeah, no, that's not what we're doing here. Because be real with me, have you ever found yourself 4 hours into a binge of a ghost hunting show with the shaking night vision camera footage and the wide-eyed ghost hunters screaming at their own shadows, thinking, there is absolutely no way this is real? Yeah, me too. And if I'm being totally honest with you, I am more interested in the history of a haunted house and the origins of an urban legend and the actual lived experiences of people that have encountered paranormal activity firsthand, rather than watching a group of people filming themselves in a dark room. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some amazing ghost investigators, especially on YouTube. Like, some of the investigations that I've seen are amazing, and I do absolutely live for a Class 8 EVP or like a terrifying image of a shadow figure. But most of the time, the context and the history make the haunting so much more compelling for me. And if that sounds like a bit of you, then I think we've just become best friends. So you're going to want to hit that subscribe button, because every week we are going to be sitting down and swapping ghost stories like a good old sleepover, chatting about all things morbid, mysterious, and macabre. Have you got a paranormal experience that you'd like to share, or do you know of a haunted location that you'd like me to cover? Please leave me a comment or throw me a DM over on Instagram. You can find me at Don't Scare Claire. I absolutely love hearing all about your encounters with what lies beyond our realm. I cannot wait to get into all the spooky things with you, and maybe we might learn a thing or two about some history too. I know, I promise I won't be like your boring history teacher. But until next time, sleep safe. You showing everyone your butthole? Yeah. That's not stable. I would not lean on that. Okay, we're done.
Absolutely.
So,
And if we know what they want you to be is ignorant. Why is it that our TikTok is full of silly dog videos, but if you go to China's TikTok, it's full of like friggin' metaphysics, you know?
yeah.
Why is that? Because they have dumbed us down. They have dumbed us down, and we are one of the only countries that doesn't know their history on top of it, because we have been lied to. This world was found. It was settled. It was not built. I mean, we have been told things that if you just go with the narrative, okay, but if you look at the things that were here before, like, and number one, that Statue of Liberty, there's no way they shipped that clear across. Are you serious?
Well, I'm not. What year was that? Do you
Old
remember?
As hell. And it's a star. It's a star fort. It's a star fort.
It
for
is
sure.
a star fort. No, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it could have been before gravity was invented.
1876. Oh wait, 1886.
1886.
And so I'm just saying, like, it's so big and it's so heavy and it's massive. Like, I've been all over. I travel a lot. Well, I did. And I don't know if you saw my pictures all last week, because I'm gearing up to release with Matt from Great Deception. It's going to come out this weekend. And so I'm like, look at these things. Like, you can see me and I'm like this big by some of these pillars in Rome. Like, are you telling me that we did that with horse and buggy? Really? Okay. I don't think we did. We can't do it now. Too. Yeah, we can't do it now.
We can't. No, we can't. We can't even sculpt statues out of marble without all these like fancy tools.
Exactly.
Like, how did they?
We have to have lasers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you really step back and go, does this make any sense? And I always tell people, don't be afraid. Just get to know it. Like, if you know you have guardian angels, because some people will come to you and say, I know I have guardian angels and they know me and they love me. I'm like, true. Guess what else knows and loves you? Not love, follows. We'll say that. Are attached to you. You are assigned as many evil things at birth as you are good things. And guess what? They know you. And guess what? They know how to sound like your great grandpa, whatever. They know how to come to you that you would accept it. Why did Crowley get an alien and not an angel? Because they knew, they know his heart. They knew he would never go for that, because he was evil inherently, like in his heart. Like, he liked kind of evil, dark, not evil, but dark things. Okay. So they know you. They know everything about you. So when people say, my grandpa told me blah, 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 or came to me, you better be very careful, because there are deceiving spirits. We have to be very careful. because I, for one, and I'm immersed in it, and I'm sure you are too, discernment is very hard when it comes to those, because they are trickster spirits. They know the whole thing. They know your heart's desire. They know you want to hear your grandma's voice. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
so simple, you know? So yeah, that's just my opinion on it, but I've chatted your ear a bunch. Do you have any questions for me? Sorry, I'm so chatty.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I was enjoying it. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
But I did want to go back to the I think it was a brother-in-law is
Oh, my brother-in-law. Yes, that's the Warren
he
Jeffs. Yeah.
yeah, and he's in jail for marrying somebody that was too young.
Okay, so Warren Jeffs is the leader currently of the fundamentalist church, so the FLDS, and they are the ones that look like they're Amish, kind of like they look very Amish looking, and they still practice polygamy. I don't know how many wives he had when he went to jail, but I would venture to state it was at least 30.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
He had a lot.
I mean, one is too much.
Right? That's what I say. But he was marrying. So when his dad was in charge, because this guy that is my brother-in-law, he said they always were older then. Like he got his wife at 18 and he was 21 and she was 18. Like they're older, you know, they were more careful about, because when they get married, this is how it happens. He told me that day God said he should marry her, and they called him on the phone and he said, I hadn't even had a kiss, because they're very chaste. Okay. He's like, I have never done anything with a girl ever, nothing. They called me at 4:00 and by 7 p.m. we were married. And they don't get to pick who they marry. They just,
wow.
Yeah. So that's how they become married. And so and he actually tells many tales of wonderful times in his life before this current leader. Because when that current leader actually went to jail, he banned all dogs, he banned all toys, he banned all marriages, he banned all pregnancies unless they were by certain people. And those people were like the impregnators, and they could do certain things, and that was it. Yeah.
What?
But
he's
it's
not
like,
a cult.
It's not a cult.
What the fuck?
I think more people understand that the fundamentalist church is a cult, but also the mainstream is a cult. Like if you look at the whole thing, they still at the core level believe in that whole Joseph Smith thing, you know? And so, yeah. And it goes into so much, like premortal existence. They believe in, like I said, they don't believe in the Trinity. They believe that we existed in a premortal existence in heaven, and that you and I have like a certain amount of babies up there. And if we didn't bring them all down, it's terrible. We should just keep having babies because they're waiting, their souls up there waiting to come down. And, we're letting them down if we don't, have more babies. And then someday we'll get our own planet, which they lie about. They say, we never said that. And I'm like, yes, you did. Like they change everything. Really? Oh, yeah. Oh, you got to look up
that
Kolob. Yeah. Look up. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You got to. Oh, and Mary got pregnant because God had sex with her. It wasn't divine conception. It was, Jesus was formed just like anyone else, but of course it was a special baby because, he's God, but like that there was a sexual act between them. Yeah.
Well, that's how they depict the Watchers, from the
It's
book of
so
Enoch.
wild.
So.
Well, though, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I dare say, I know this is going to sound wild, but I dare say that, okay, the orphan trains and all those kids, okay, where the hell did they come from? Then we've got the incubator babies, and I'm like, where the hell did they come from? And do you know how many kids were on the orphan trains just in America?
I I did know at one time, but a refresher
Take a
fry my
wild,
memory.
just a wild guess.
100,000 or 800,000 or something like
A
that.
250,000 kids. 250,000 kids that they didn't know where they came from in a time that they had so many orphanages, that they had overflowing orphanages. We're going to go save all the preemie babies because we need more babies. And then they integrated them into our society. Where did they come from? And then here's another one I'll blow your mind with. And then you mix in all of these cemeteries that they're finding for Catholics with all these little dead babies. And I'm wondering, are those the projects that didn't go quite right? Were those the babies that didn't get shipped? But I'm a conspiracy theorist. So.
Oh no! Now I'm gonna have to look into that.
So,
well, because I do listen. Like the Queen was into some shit. Obviously, we know that. We just found
definitely.
the schools up in Canada. They're finding like all these native bodies, and she was always there. The kids coming over to the border right now, the southern border, that are going missing and they can't find them.
Exactly.
You see all these videos right now surfacing on TikTok of these like social workers bringing these kids to the airport, and they're like, "Hey, is this your child?" And they're like, "No, it's not my child." And they're like, "This is my badge," and then they won't show them their name and stuff like that. It's like really bizarre shit, and it bothers me so bad when they involve children in it. Like I'll literally, like, over somebody else's child, I will kill somebody. Like, just them being a child.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
it wouldn't. They don't have to be my
Kids are
child. Just be
innocent.
them a child.
They're innocent. And then here's the thing, you could even mail order a baby. Did you know that?
I did
Did
not
you know
what the fuck?
I'll send you some pictures that you'll freak. There you could order a baby, and then they have all these weird postcards. And I talked to Matt about it, and I said, okay, I saw your Cabbage Patch Baby postcards where they're coming out of the ground. Okay. And then the homunculus with Juan. And then I said, but there's one thing you guys missed. And he's like, oh yeah, what's that? And I said, almost in every photo, there's a woman in a red dress, the Scarlet Whore of Babylon, to usher in the end of the world. And she is the mother of demons. And I'm like, what if all of this stuff ties together, right? I mean, it just seems so interesting to me that they keep finding all these graveyards of little babies in all these Catholic places. Like, they keep finding all these things now, and they're explaining it off like, oh yeah, they just got sick or this or that. Really that many? And then in the meanwhile, you've got these postcards, and one of them, it's so messed up. I'll send it to you. It's like a repopulation machine. It's French, and it says repopulation, and the woman is here and the man is here, and there's babies just being made in a machine. And I'm like, And so how come all of this, and if this is true, and they figured it out, which I assume they did figure out, like test tube, we're talking like test tube babies, right?
Yeah.
And if they figured out the homunculus, or i.e. test tube babies, and integrated them into society, that means there's far more people affected, because all of those people grew up and got married. All of them have prodigy. All of them like now are here. And here's the other funny thing. Out of all the countries in the world, how many are so white? White is not really a common color, man. Like,
no,
the countries were not white, like they were browns, they were blacks. I mean, it wasn't normal to have all these white people. You know who was white? The fallen angels. Yeah. So, and if they did that and figured it out, because the homunculus was known to be smaller and the giants are giant, but if you figure out a way, to make it normal, quote unquote normal. So it just makes you think about it, at least it makes me think about it. But I'm weird. So
that is very interesting. But what better
Yes.
place to be weird than
right?
being on the where the weird ones are?
Right. I'm
So
definitely a fit.
for sure, for sure. But
Oh.
yeah, that whole story with the Nephilim and stuff, like, because there's stories of like when they came over here to settle America, that they were finding white people with red hair
Mm-hmm.
in native tribes,
Yeah,
integrated in the native
like
tribes.
Tartarian type stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Because and why did Indians say how? Why is this a thing? Because they were looking for 6 fingers.
No shit, I never knew that.
Yeah. And so it's a wise tale. I mean, can we prove it? No. Is it
No,
interesting? Sure. You know,
absolutely.
I mean, it's very interesting that there's very few countries in the world that have like a really hardcore white population, you know? And it just seems strange to me because I don't believe that Adam and Eve were, you know?
No, I know
just don't.
110%
Yeah.
Adam and Eve were not white.
Mm-mm. No.
I would actually, you want to know what's really fucking hilarious about that statement just now is that so I'm an aspiring writer, like I want to write like fictional books, and I wanted to write a fictional series based on like BC, like before Christ, like the creation of the universe and stuff. And I wrote Adam as a black guy and Eve as like Indian type like looking
Well,
woman. You
think
know what I
about it.
mean?
They're made from the dirt. Like
Yeah,
you would
they're
be brown. Like I feel like you would be because it makes sense, you know?
yeah,
And
absolutely makes sense to me.
yeah. And Jesus the same. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. In fact, when leprosy started becoming a big deal, you know, what happened? They were panicking because not only their skin fell off, I get that, but
Right.
it would turn white. So maybe that was the contamination of the race at that point, even, you know, like it makes you wonder, like, was that something and then the RH negative blood, you put in the RH negative blood and you get a whole nother can of worms because it was not known to have existed before. Like it was like a very recent time frame. And the babies, so if you have a RH negative mother and a RH positive father, the baby will be aborted if you don't have a shot for it. And so it's like the body's own mechanism to say, no, this doesn't belong here. And what does God say? I will put an enmity between your seed and man, right? Like, so like trying to keep it from even happening, but yet we've intervened again, you know? And the last time they were messing around with genetics, the world got flooded. Let's be real, you know?
Yeah.
So it's wild to me that like some of these things, you don't just have a blood type come out of nowhere. Like what? You know what I'm saying? Like it was never in like Africa or anywhere. It wasn't even discovered until 1940 to 1941.
Blood type?
This RH negative. It didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so that my grandma had it, my great grandma had it, and she lost a whole bunch of babies because my grandpa was positive and it kept aborting the babies. And so it just makes you wonder, like, it's contaminants. And even though Noah was pure after the flood, right? He said, okay, his seed came over and he was pure, but the sons brought their wives. Right. So I think it came over with the wives of the sons.
Didn't there's a quote in when they talk about Noah and his sons after the or when they were coming over in the flood. I think that one of the sons slept with their mother. With
Oh
Noah's
yeah.
wife, with
Yeah, there
Noah's
was
wife.
some weird stuff there too. Exactly. just like the story of Tammuz, which goes along with this season, right? That story.
Yeah.
And Nimrod and all that crap. But I'm just saying, like,
Nimrod was a Nephilim.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so, and how did that occur? Like his son was a progeny of her sleeping with a fake something or other, because the phallus was missing, and what was born? Tammuz, so which is celebrated with Saturnalia, because then he got cut into pieces. Oh, am I flipping it? Flip that the other way around. So anyway, do you know this story?
No.
It's a weird. Okay. So Tammuz was cut into pieces. That's right. And the mother couldn't find all the pieces. And so she found everything but the phallus, which is why there's phallus worship. And then she found something else instead. And that's why I think Nimrod was born of that. So Tammuz story, child. And it was Astaroth, which is why we celebrate like Easter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just learned about him not too long ago.
Yeah. So strange. It's like a weird myth. And then so that's why there's celebration of Saturnalia has to really do with this whole Tammuz thing. So it's very strange. And he was born, supposedly Nimrod, the sun god, was the reincarnation of Nimrod, born on December 25th. But also Christians get twisted. And I'm going to be doing 2 different shows about this. One about the pagan rituals and stuff of Christmas stuff, but also of the other side of it, because they say, oh no, they stole it from us. No, they stole it from us. And there's really strong evidence on both sides. So I have 2 different opposing people that I'm going to be doing separate shows with, because we don't want to have we don't want to go there. But I think it will be very interesting, because they both have very differing views. So, but yeah, it all goes back to very interesting things. And here's the thing: we can just say, oh, that doesn't matter, it's interesting or whatever. But what if it does? What if it matters about our population? Like, America's history is very weird. We have we are an orphan country. We do not know our roots. And so why don't we? I mean, if you watch Great Deception podcast, shout out Matt, you will be like, whoa. Like, especially watch the Cabbage Babies. It'll screw with you. Oh my gosh. it messed with my mind. It's definitely weird. It's perfect for you. It
sounds weird. I will go check that shit out.
Definitely
tonight.
Yeah, do it. It's so good. It's so good. And so, or we can do a Cabbage Babies one later too, because it's creepy.
Well, I definitely.
But that one we got to have photos work.
Yes, for sure.
Because I'll show you some weird stuff.
Well, I definitely need to have you come back on again, because I feel like there's so much more we could talk about.
Absolutely. And it's getting late. I know that.
Yeah, it's getting.
You're probably like, oh my gosh.
No, stop. Don't sell yourself
no,
short.
I mean, on being tired. I'm sure you've done things all day today too. So
yeah, that's another thing with the podcast too, is like I as much as I love it, like I work 60 hours a week too. So which
that would explain it.
yeah. So like but like it's 10 o'clock here, which is probably 8 for you,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's the worst.
And I feel like we could definitely come on and do another 2 hour. I'll bring some photos so it's even more powerful, and I'll send you some of those sigils for Joseph Smith, because when you see them, you'll understand why I believe it's such a cult in nature. And people will say, well, who cares? That's old. Oh, who cares? That's that. You know what attachments are, like being in what you do. And they build these temples and these buildings, and who only knows what they house, because I know Jesus made it very clear that God is not in temples. Like, that was made clear.
Yes, he did. Yeah. And the weird thing about temples is that Epstein had something that looked very temple-istic.
And he had all these women that in the desert. He was in the desert with all these women doing who knows what. Really. Yeah, artificial insemination of some weird kind. I don't even want to speculate. It's weird. Well, I do want to. But
I would like
I'm
to
so
know.
weird, right? I'm so weird, but definitely we'll do it again, and I'll bring the heat. I'll bring some pics.
All right, perfect. I love it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that you had me on tonight, and we did like a weird
you coming on.
Yeah, of course. We had a weird rundown of Mormons and all kinds of things, but Mormons lead into weird stuff. What can I say?
Absolutely. They do. Every time I talk about Mormons, something weird comes up. Which hasn't been very many times, but every time it has. So
it gets strange.
It does. So just shout out your podcast and where they can find you one more time.
Again, I am Heidi Luv. I'm at the Unfiltered Rise, wherever podcasts are served. I am on Patreon if you want early drops and extra bonuses. I am on YouTube for the time being. Let's hope I can make sure that still happens. And I am here to stay. And if you have questions for me, unfilteredrise@gmail or on Instagram.
Nice.
Awesome.
Everybody go check Heidi out and all of her stuff, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode, because I did. I definitely have some information that I can go and look into some more that I didn't 100% know. So but anyway,
any questions too, hit me up. Yep.
Yes, hit her up for any questions. I will too. So that's the show. But like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and a review. That'd be fucking fantastic.
That'd be awesome. Keep us in the algorithms.
Absolutely. And then merch is etsy.com/shop/where the weird ones are. And other than that, you guys know the drill. Question everything and stay weird.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.
Because in the end, none of us have very long on this earth. Life is fleeting. And if you're ever distressed, cast your eyes to the summer sky, when the stars are strung across the velvety night, and when a shooting star streaks through the blackness, turning night into day. Make a wish.